a big audience tonight, and so all we ask is that you please keep the noise level down so everyone can hear. That sound fair?
Yeah.
Great.
Could we ask that you speak up too? Because it's hard to hear back here when you're facing that way.
Okay.
Thanks.
Fair enough. Everybody, well, Mike, you should have a copy of the agenda for tonight.
Yeah, I was working today, so if you send it today, I'm just getting to it. I haven't seen anything from you yet.
No, it's in the policy committee document that we usually get.
Got it. Yeah, I'll let you send it this morning.
So what we can do is, there's the policies to be reviewed as part of the 3-year review cycle. You saw that policies 101, 204, and 403. Those are pretty standard policies. And I would suggest that we just move that on forward to the board for approval, the first round of approval at the next meeting. Is everybody good with that?
What were the comments that Mike had?
That's on 506. Oh, they're coming up.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Sorry. Wrong one. Yep, I'm good with those three.
Mike, are you good?
Can you say those three again? I'm looking at what I thought was the agenda. You had 506, 722, and 806 that you just listed.
Well, the agenda item, we have a 3-year review cycle that policies are, and we have policy 101, 204, and 403 slated on the next 3-year review cycle. And you'll see 101 is just a basic policy that talks about the status of the school board, referencing, I think, Minnesota Statute 123B.09. So that's just a boilerplate policy. And then 204 is school board meeting minutes, which we have Londa doing for us.
Yeah, I have those up, John. I'm fine with those.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and proceed those to the board. That sound good?
Yes, could be.
The next policy that we have is the library materials, the MSBA. And I just pulled that at the last meeting, asked the table, so the board did. And I did a little bit more review on that. And some of the cases that have come out, and I think we're good just following the MSBA boilerplate policy for that. I don't think we need to make any changes or addendums to that based upon where we are and follow the MSBA guidance. That would be my recommendation. Shane or Mike, do you have anything that you want to add?
I'm good with it as it reads, so it will go as a first read with these other three then?
Yes.
Yes,
So
I'm
you haven't
fine.
made any changes to what was presented, what was endorsed so far by teachers and teachers union?
No.
Same as last time, yeah.
Same as last time.
Yeah, we discussed it, and I think we're all happy with it as is. I think it's good to take a second look at it to make sure we're all comfortable with it. But yeah, especially hearing that we got support within the teams for it, made it better. So that's it, leave it as is. They requested.
I would just add procedurally in the district, we are getting requests to have books reviewed. We need to follow the policy and procedure and push people to that. Because I just feel like sometimes there's a buzz about a book or some books, but we have to follow the procedure that's listed here and take a through that. So if we're going to review things, because I think that sometimes the noise out there is different from what actually happens in the review process. We have a good process for that. So let's push people through that.
And I think, Mike, one of the things is the policy is pretty close to what the procedures are already in the district, so it's not going to be like a monumental step change. Maybe the review committee might be a little larger, but other than that, things are very similar. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Are you guys good with moving that on back to the board agenda
Yeah, I'm good with that.
for the August meeting? Okay. The next set of updates, these are technical updates. These are updates mainly in citations. Some of the, on the agenda, part of it was truncated, and I dug into that, and basically what technical updates are is, let's say a Minnesota statute citation or a footnote or a reference to something else changes or is added, but the body of the policy is not changed in any way, shape, or form. The administration, via Londa, because Londa does all the work, right? You go ahead and make those citation changes without going through the board approval process, since they're minimal and they do not disrupt the intent or the body of the policy whatsoever. So we could ask to move that to the board, but what are your thoughts?
I'm good with bringing it as a first read. It's all information pushed through by legislative. And if you and your team have looked through it,
I think MSBA's recommendations, we just go ahead and make it changes.
Yep.
It's just, they're just not doing
These
no
are
things we can.
Okay, so no approval on it.
these are not legislative changes. These are citations.
Citations, sorry.
So you could have like a statute updated or one that might be inclusive of that policy, so they could add that statute into there, but it's nothing new in the body of the policy. That's the important feature.
So said differently, I'm good with them the way they are, and don't even want commissioners.
Okay.
Mike does it more.
All right.
Yeah, I was ready to push it forward at the last meeting, and it looks like nothing's been changed, so I'm still good with it.
Okay. And then we got some of the substantive updates, and these are legal changes that the legislature has changed policies, some of the legal parameters, and what happens is MSBA goes into the body of the document and references the legal changes and statutes and citations. So that's what those are. And we can send them out a chunk to the board. Now the policy 208 allows us to approve these in a single cycle, or we can do the 2-cycle. What's your recommendations, Shane? What thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, as we look through them, I think the 2-cycle gives the board a chance to see them. So, I mean, again, these are the ones I was looking at we talked before. So, I don't have any issues with them. I'm ready to bring them forward. But I would say just do it on the 2-cycle. So, if there is any questions or comments, board members have to.
We got 15 policies there, so.
Right? No, I understand. It's a lot to read.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, so they're not substantive changes, they're just changes that are put in there that are legal requirements. So a lot of it being that, it doesn't matter what the opinion is, if it's legal changes to law, they have to go in. Historically, from what I've seen, is they do it in a single meeting, and why I should draw them. So I'd be fine with that. But if other board members need more time to review, then I obviously let them do that. So what I'm saying is I'm good either way.
Right, and I agree with Shane to do a double, you know, have a two review cycle on that, because there's so many of them. And there's a duplicative policy, 6 crisis management. So we're talking about that as the annual policy. So I think we know what to do with that. That sound good?
I'm good with that.
Okay, now there's annual policies that we have to look at every single year. And one of those annual policies is 506 student discipline. And Mike, you had some questions on that?
I didn't have questions. I just did two things. I reviewed the MSBA policy. And I just provided you guys an example with red highlights in it from what's different in each policy, just so we can see where we're in alignment with that, where we're slightly different. And then I went into both because I think our survey that came back shows not only is this a concern amongst teachers, parents, and students, surprisingly more teachers and parents. It's a student feedback to come back as high as they'd expect it to. As a concern, but when you look nationally, I mean, even comparing us to everybody else, where we scored high in some of these issues, it was we scored very high because all districts are scoring low. So I think we gotta think bigger than what MSBA model does and figure out what we need to do to make sure our teachers are empowered with tools they need, but still allowing them flexibility, right, through their own judgment. But so that they know they're backed by not only the administration or the board to use the tools that are supplied, but then we do some measurements and look at how it's effective. So now, Vinny, have you had to get your slides that you showed?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of super great too. I mean, like we're reviewing the data, but the data shows that 49% of incidents have no resolution reporting. So there's a gap there, and we're not going to solve it at this meeting. But I think we need to admit to ourselves as a board that we can make this better. You look at those gaps and have a discussion of how you fix that, right? And like I brought up the matrix, and the idea of a matrix that you said that you've done similar before, isn't to say teachers have to do this, is to give them a framework of minimums or examples. It's not saying you take away their professional judgment. And in those notes, I see the need for this unit because you talked about in the notes how a lot of the teachers are asking or sending some information back in confusion on how to list things or how to enter things and how to record some of this stuff. So it's just even within some of the slides that was sent on what's being done now shows that how we can slightly improve things. So that's all I did is just sent a list of some of the rest of those.
Yeah, probably my question, Mike, was just what do you think kind of trickles out into policy? Because the matrix and some of the things, we can list those procedurally and have those conversations. But I was just curious about the board's role in setting policy and governing. Did you see things there that need to show up in policy?
Well, it depends how we want to do it. You could reference some of these tools you pull up in governments. Sometimes it's sufficient just to say they exist, or this is what should be developed or needs to be developed, or gaps would be filled. So I guess we'll have to discuss that. We'll have to look at where some of the issues are and see what the best way to solve that is. It could just be a readjustment policy. If there's not support in governance to make that clear that it needs to be a policy, then we should probably have a line or two in governance.
Yeah, I think that, to me is where the rubber meets the road with policy questions, right? How do we not over policy so people's hands are tied as far as making decisions or black and white decisions based on behavior? And, you and I talked about this before, Mike, significant research about suspension doesn't work for kids. I understand the break it gives our staff and such, but we've got laws to follow in this too. So I just would really want to understand more deeply what policy-wise versus management-wise we would want to adjust to make this a formal rule, right?
Yes, understood.
So Mike, what do you think we should be doing with 506 right now?
Well, I think what we need to do is again, I just got Andy's email with slides and more information on this on Sunday evening. So I think we need to discuss as a board where things need to be improved, because sometimes it seems like we're not even in agreement with it, right? Because what I'm saying is the feedback I'm hearing, and even if it's in school and all of this, if things are happening, if teachers are being sworn at or cussed at and there's no punishment being doled out, then we need to fix something. If the same students are going to a signing and seeing it as a reward, not a punishment, then we need to fix that, right? If we have substitute teachers come in and a student says, "Can I just go to the planning room now?" That's not effective, right? So I think we need feedback, and Andy's accountable with the teachers. So I think what we really, and we saw in the survey, right, that the teachers are in agreement with some of this, that consistency between buildings, some help, some support. This is something that's needed. So I think the first thing we need to agree on is their need, and then I think maybe it goes to the administration, because they're the ones who work with the staff and the teachers, and they're the experts, right? So what can we do to make things better and to solve some of these issues? So maybe with the current policy, it has to sit for a little bit until we come up with some ideas on what will work.
Yeah, I am not seeing a policy change that would have to be made for us to have that conversation. I just am not. I think the way this policy is written, it's flexible enough, but specific enough to show kind of what do we believe in student discipline. But it does give us enough flexibility to be able to talk that through and say, how can we either do this better or different? And we would want to talk best practice, aligned with the law, pupil fair dismissal act, all the good stuff. So to me, I think the policy is ready to bring forward for approval, but it's a bigger conversation, to your point, Mike, about what we want to do with our school perceptions.
Yeah, without a lot of time to look over this and pick it up more in depth, as long as the conversation's willing to go on.
Yeah.
And to continue to have that, I think it needs to be priority. And it is a yearly thing as we get ready to start another school year. So I was thinking about this in the year phase. Now would be the best time to change some of this governance. Even if we decided that was needed, so maybe what we need to do is have this be a continued conversation as the next year goes on. With the perception survey staff and involving everyone to see how we can come up with something to make this better. So I guess in that context, off the top of my head, I'd be fine. And with yes to this is yes.
Yeah, Mike, to your point, I think it would be good to, we've gotten some review of the school perception survey, but we haven't gotten all of it. So the commentary is going to be coming out next. That'll give us some themes to be thinking about. And I think since Andy sent the data on that you're referencing, maybe take some time to digest that a little bit more and then ask questions based upon what you see there. But structurally, the 506 policy I think is good. I don't think there's any changes, and I think it's kind of like I think about I don't want to put on that whole. Sometimes you put mandates on judges and that they have to implement things that shouldn't be implemented, and that could lead to bad things because it's more like a car wash than it is a really adapting to the situation, you could say. And that's what this policy does, is allows administrators and site leaders to develop the procedures and the policies and based upon the students' needs is really what we're after. I mean, would you agree, Shane?
Yes, to a point. I mean, I'm looking at two different situations here. One is the policy, which is what we're working on, which is the overarching, which I think this covers. And to Mike's point, I think he's talking about best practice, implementation, all of that, which again should be turned over to the superintendent. And then the board needs to evaluate it. So, based on our school perception survey, we're looking for some things to be done differently. I'd be interested to see from the superintendent some of the information sent, what that might look like, how we're going to handle it. But putting that stuff in the policy and quote unquote putting a straitjacket on, it's complicated to move. So I really think the policy is ready to move forward, and when it comes to implementation and all the rest of that, we need to work at a visionary level with the superintendent to get that done.
Agreed. So we'll go ahead and put 506 on the next agenda. Is everyone good with that?
I'm good with that.
Yep, it's fine.
The next one we had is public data request 722. If you look at that, there wasn't many structural changes on that. And if you're familiar with the data request, it basically gives the process of how to make changes, how to request data, whether it's public, private, what parameters are, and then summary data. If you go down to the end of that policy, I forgot to mention that to Londa. Right. Okay, that got fixed. Okay, so we're
You're
good.
talking about superintendent, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I got that.
you did.
And,
Awesome.
aren't you proud of me?
Yeah. So anyways, so that's 722 data practices. Do you have any questions concerning that? I know the legislature was debating on that quite a bit because there's a high cost of data requests, to a district. And then there's anonymity to the whole process, which makes it even harder. So, but that did pass in the legislature. So, school districts have to deal with data requests from anonymous people.
I'm good with that. I'll move forward.
Mike?
I'm good as well.
Okay. Well, that's been pretty easy. The next thing on the agenda is 806, crisis management. Everyone get a chance to read through this?
Here again, I don't think you have, major changes that would require a whole, deviation from best practice here. So, in my opinion, my recommendation is to do that.
The only thing we probably want to add though is ref history
Yeah.
on that, where we just say the policy committee reviewed and accepted changes from MSBA on York.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We can move on.
I'm good.
Well, this turned out to be easy. That's it. That's all we have.
So then for the board update, we'll put those policies in, update, we'll let people know that they're coming, so people have a chance to review, and they'll show up for a first reading on the agenda.
Yeah, we're gonna have a list of them, so we'll just break down the ones that are coming from us there and MSBA and all that stuff.
Right. Any other questions?
So do we wanna go over what the next ones are? We're looking at?
Well, we'll have to pull those off the list,
Okay.
and we'll get those out.
I think they're on the time. Okay. I'm good with that.
Mike, do you have anything else?
Nope, nothing else.
Okay. Well, I think we're over.
All right.
Well, thanks so much for your time.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.